Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in live tonight for our April episode of Real Talk. Real Talk is a monthly show hosted by the Living Legacy Foundation of Maryland that focuses on various topics within the field of organ donation and transplantation. We are honored to highlight and discuss the many ways that organ, eye, tissue, research, and in-spirit donors are remembered and celebrated year-round in our community. My name is Kim Zorlo, and I am the office manager at the LLF. I have the pleasure of introducing you to our moderator for the evening, Megan Smith. Each month, Real Talk is moderated by one of our volunteer Donate Life ambassadors who will have a special connection to donation or transplantation. Megan received a living donor liver transplant in December 2019 and is an advocate for transplant recipients and organ donation. She graduated from the University of Maryland College Park with a BA in Communication and a minor in Human Development, and currently works as a marketing executive at AWIN, a global affiliate marketing network. Follow Megan on Instagram at Megan Moves to learn more about her transplant experience and advocacy work. Megan, you have the floor.
Thank you for having me, and hello everyone. I'm pleased to host this evening's Real Talk episode. I'm especially excited to host tonight because, as you may know, April is Donate Life Month. Tonight's show will be a little different from some of the past episodes. Throughout the month, the LLF hosts a donation campaign called In One Word. This campaign is focused on highlighting the many different reasons we all have for registering as organ donors and supporting this life-saving and healing process. Tonight, we will hear from 3 people who have been impacted by donation and transplantation and learn the deeper stories behind their unique words. Before I introduce them, I'll share my one word. Megan Metz joined the LLF team as the Community Outreach Department Assistant in 2019, but has been a supporter since 2011. After her father passed, her father was able to donate his corneas. Megan and her family are proud to be a donor family. They attend every event in honor of him. George Franklin is the longest living African-American deceased donor kidney recipient in the country. He received his kidney transplant at George Washington University Hospital in November 1975. He is the founder and president of the Quarter Century Club, a group for recipients who have had their transplant 25 years or more. George has a son and grandchildren, enjoys camping and swimming, and most of all, attending the Transplant Games of America. George is now approaching his 67th birthday and still living life. Robin Litz joined the LLF's Donate Life Ambassadors in 2016, 9 months after receiving her life-saving liver transplant. Robin became a member of the LLF staff in 2019 and now serves as the receptionist. So be sure to say hi next time you call the LLF. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm glad we can come together to share our unique stories and reasons for supporting this cause. So we're all here tonight because of our unique connection to donation. George, can you start us off and tell us a little bit more about your story?
Well, hi, Megan, and thanks for having me this evening. My story starts back in 1970, actually, when I was in high school and I was diagnosed with some type of kidney disorder. It came to a head in 1972 when I was preparing to go to my sister's wedding, and I came down with a really bad cough. So my mom took me to a local hospital where they determined my blood pressure was sky high, and we got to get this kid to a real hospital, a larger hospital. So about a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe later, they were able to transfer me safely because of the blood pressure. And I was transferred down to George Washington University Medical Center in Foggy Bottom in DC. And that's where they really determined that my kidney, and I say kidney because I was apparently only born with one, and that one kidney had shut down. So they tried peritoneal dialysis, which was an interesting thing back then. and that didn't work. So I found myself 3 weeks later on hemodialysis.
Thank you, George. Your story is an inspiration to all of us recipients. Robin, will you please share your story with us as well?
Sure. About 20 years ago, I was getting a routine blood work, and they determined that my liver enzymes were extremely elevated, which didn't faze me in the least, but it's caused some alarm. They sent me to a specialist, and I was diagnosed with a autoimmune liver disease called PBC, or primary biliary cirrhosis. I had no symptoms. I felt fine, and it stayed like that until 2010 when I had a varice rupture, and I had to have an emergency TIPS procedure done. Went in the hospital on Tuesday, came home on Saturday and Sunday, and left for Mexico the following Saturday. I was determined I was going to live life no matter what. And then I was fine, and then all of a sudden, 2014, 2015, I started getting really sick, and then they determined that I had problems with my brain and that I didn't have a whole lot of time left, and that's when they put me on the list. And, I didn't have a whole big MELD score either, so I was really low on the list. But luckily, my doctor wrote to the transplant board and got me the points that I needed, and I got a liver within a month. So, and luckily, my family, my husband, my kids, everyone was so supportive. They were scared, but they were right there by my side through the whole time. So I got a liver, and I'm fine.
That's amazing. Thank you, Robin.
Oh, you're
We're
welcome.
well represented here on the transplant side tonight, but Megan joins us from the other side of the process. Megan, can you please tell us a little bit more about how you became involved in donation?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight. My beginning with donation actually started when I was getting my driver's license. I had gone to the MBA and finished the driving course and started the paperwork process to get my license. My dad was with me because you needed a parent with you back then, and the question of, do you want to be an organ donor came up, and my dad immediately answered for me, and he said yes. I didn't even get a chance to have any input. I was like, okay. If I remember correctly, we had never really talked about being an organ donor and what it means, but I was like, you know what? Dad knows what's best. I trust what he says on this. I don't think he'll sign me up for anything that's ultimately going to hurt me. So I never really realized what it was like to be a donor until after he passed. We received the medal and award in the mail stating that he was able to donate his corneas. And it was after reading that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And then my mom joked that we will never know if he's watching us. So that gave us first comfort. And it was comforting. It was, we use humor in that way. But I have worn my green bracelet ever since, and I have a gnarly tan line because of it.
I got mine over here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Megan. I know it's not always easy to share stories like that, and we really appreciate you doing so with us tonight. So now that we've shared our stories, let's dig in a bit deeper to our in one words. George, can you tell us more about why you chose your word?
Well, my word is grateful, and I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, we can.
Okay. And when you've had an organ transplant for as long as I have, and I stopped my story at the end of dialysis, but after 3 years of dialysis, I went on and was able to get a kidney transplant. This is pre-OPOs. This was pre-list, pre-everything, I guess. But I was able to get one. And unfortunately, the first one failed. 6 months later, I was called again. And that's the one that I still have now, 45 years later. And so with each passing day, with each passing moment, you become more and more grateful. You should, at least. I mean, I was able to do so many things that I never thought I would be able to do if I were still on dialysis. 45 years, and to be honest, I really see very little advancement in the concept of dialysis. But it still keeps people alive, and it's gone down from 6 hours each, 3 days a week, to I think maybe 4.5 or something, but that's it. But you become grateful in knowing that you're still alive. You still have the ability to breathe and walk and talk and do certain things that is specifically because someone passed away. So I had no choice but to be a donor. It's on my license. Everybody that knows me knows, look, just use whatever can be used after hopefully 65 or 70 years of transplantation. If there's anything to be used, take it without question, take it. But that's why I am happy to be an organ donor, okay? Because someone was an organ donor to me. And this was back in the day where you couldn't put it on your driver's license. It hadn't been passed. Those laws hadn't been passed. You had a little card about the size of a credit card that you carried around with you. And your family absolutely had to know, because at that point, even though that was a legal contract, they could still say, you know what, no, we don't think so. So we're grateful for the different laws that have been changed over the last 40, 50 years, but that's why I'm an organ donor.
Wow, George, thank you so much for sharing. I know that grateful is certainly a word I associate with organ donation as well. Megan, would you like to share a little bit more about why you chose your word?
Yes. I chose dad, obviously, for my dad. Like I said, I didn't really know about organ donation until after he passed. So I'd like to thank him in a way for that. It is such a bittersweet thing. In order to really learn about it, I had to go through this tragic event of losing him. But after a few years, it wasn't tragic per se. It was more of a celebration of him and all donors. We look forward to Family Fun Run every year and getting to experience that collective emotion, both happy and sad, with everyone. So this is for him. I remember the year where it was just kind of like that shift in feeling, where it wasn't as like, oh man, like this is just a downer. It was like, no, this is awesome. Like this is like, we're here for the same reason essentially, and that's to bring awareness to organ donation, organ tissue donation. So that's my words for him.
That's amazing. Thank you, Megan. And finally, Robin, can you tell us more about your word?
My word is life.
Ooh.
And I chose that word because obviously I was given a second chance at life when I received my liver. And because of that second chance, I've been able to be part of my grandchildren's lives and my family life. And we spend most of our days making memories. And I want to be able to give that opportunity to other families, you know, that need a second chance so they can enjoy the life that I've been able to enjoy. You know, it's really important to me to give back to someone, to give them a second chance in life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin. I would love to share my word with everyone too. My word is love. And I chose my word because I feel like when I started going through the transplant process, I was surrounded by so much love from family and friends and strangers, especially people offering to be tested to be a living donor for me. And then I think my uncle, who ended up being my match and my living donor, it's such a testament to how much he loves me that he was willing to go through surgery like that and give me a part of his liver. So that is my word. And now that we've all had a chance to share our words, I'd like to talk about some of the most common words that we see shared through this campaign and what those words mean to us. So the first word I want to talk about is hope. What does hope mean to each of you?
Well, for me, I look at a scripture in the Bible that talks about hope. And when you're on dialysis, you're constantly hoping for that call. You know, just as I can't see through these things. I'm trying not to do that. But and then something just popped on the screen. I don't know what it is. But you're constantly hoping for that call, you know. And back in the day, back in 1975, when I got the call, there were like 4 or 5 of us. Everybody that were all the kids that were on dialysis with me, we all just trooped down to the hospital. We didn't know who was going to get a kidney that night, if anyone was going to get one, but we all wanted to be there for each other. You know, I was 18, 19. I was 18 when I started dialysis. I was 21 when I got my transplant. But the other people on dialysis with me were very young, 16, 14, 12 years old, I think. So we were just kids, and we're always hoping. Well, I hope it's you. Well, I hope it's you. You know. So one time it finally ended up being me. Yeah. But hope is a powerful word.
Absolutely. Megan, do you want to share what hope means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I see hope not only for transplant recipients, because I feel that's where I immediately am directed to when I hear hope. It's like, oh, they're finally getting the transplant that they need for a better quality of life. But I also see it for donor families. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be hope that it will be okay. I remember after my dad passed, my grandma had said to us that you don't get over losing a loved one, but you get used to it, and that comes with time. And I like to think like that's hope for everybody, that you will eventually get to that point and just feel better about it.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Robin? What does hope mean to you?
Hope means the chance for a better life, the chance to spend more time with your loved ones, and just hope for everyone else to be able to experience life and make sure, you know, just giving them hope for life in general.
Our next word is generosity. George, can you share what generosity means to you?
Donation. Organ donation. I mean, how generous could you be? Whether it be, I think a deceased donor kidney is still as generous as anyone could desire. But a living donor for Megan, you know, to that someone would put their life on the line for you, to literally give I have a friend in India whose wife gave him a piece of her liver. And they come all the way over to the American Transplant Games, as a matter of fact. Every other year they come to the games. And it is so wonderful to have seen their 2 children grow over the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been, since we first met them. But that's, to me, that's what it means.
That's incredible that they come all the way over here for the transplant game.
But they do. They and everyone loves them. PK, I forget his last name, but PK is the 2 initials, and that's what he goes by, PK. And his wife is very unassuming, very quiet, as are their kids. They're very quiet people, but he realizes the sacrifice that his wife made, and the risk of a living donation. I mean, that's and of course the liver regenerates, and so that's great for you. You're going to have a full liver there, but it's a wonderful thing. That's it.
Absolutely. Megan, what does generosity mean to you?
Kind of like what George said. It's just, you know, being an organ donor is one of the most selfless gifts you can give to somebody. Like, I can't even think of something more selfless than that you're end of life and you're improving the quality of life and prolonging somebody else's life. That is just absolutely amazing. And, you know, for the families too, you know, the piece of their loved one is living on in somebody else. Like how generous is that? That is just, to me, it's just absolutely incredible and such a beautiful thing somebody can do for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can't even just put a grasp on it. It's just absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. Robin, what about you?
I think it's such a selfless gift. It's the best gift anyone could give to anyone. you're not just putting yourself first, you're putting other people first, giving them an opportunity. And I can't describe it any more than just selfless act of love, really.
Definitely. I know generosity is another word I associate with my uncle, just thinking, he had never had surgery in his life and was willing to right away step up and volunteer to donate part of his liver to me. It's one of the most generous things you could ever do. Before we move on to our next word, I would like to invite all of our viewers tonight to share their one-word reason for supporting donation in the comments so we can share. And then our next word is life. I know Robin has already shared with us how much life means to her and represents donation. But Megan, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Life, it goes hand in hand with kindness and generosity. It's something you're giving someone else their life back, being a donor. You're giving someone else their life, the opportunities they never thought they could have, and the life they never can have. It's all encompassing in a way. You're giving somebody the ability to live. Like, that is just amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What does George, what does life mean to you?
Right now, it means 45 years. I think these two words back here, donate and life, could be two separate. And I think maybe whoever created that logo had that in mind. And that's why they separated them by the bold black line. Because the club that I have, the Quarter Century Club, when we first marched in at the games, at the transplant games, we made it clear that we wanted the people in the audience, in the stands, clapping and screaming and jumping and everything, to understand that when they saw us marching in with 30 on the front of our jersey or 25 or 42, that if there's anyone out here thinking about being a living donor, this is what you could do. You could keep someone alive for this many number of years simply by signing a card and being a deceased donor, or if you wish to be a living donor, because we have living donors in our club, and they have separate jerseys, white jerseys instead of our green, and so immediately that they're walking past with their son or their daughter or their wife or whatever, and you see 238s, you know that the person in the white jersey donated to the person in the green jersey. And so you have life. I mean, right now it means for me 45 years, because dialysis was very difficult for me. For some people it's not, but being a kid, not being able to do the things that an 18, 19, 20-year-old be running the streets doing, I'm out of school. I had no desire to go to college. I wanted to go into the military. I wanted to travel the world. So all of a sudden that just crashed, just stopped. And for 3 years, I had to go through the regimen of dialysis. But for someone to do those two words, to donate life, it's amazing. Simply amazing.
Absolutely. I did not have to go through dialysis, but very similarly became sick at a very young age. And so it definitely impacted my life. I would say my whole teens and 20s was impacted from being sick and feeling like I couldn't live my life to the fullest and really enjoy it. So I think being able to receive a liver, although I received it right before the pandemic and haven't really been able to go out and travel and do those things that I really want to do, I know that, that's in the future for me, and I'm going to be able to live my life because of the amazing gift that I was able to receive.
Yeah. To me, I found that someone told me that living donors don't like to be called heroes. I don't think that's the case across the board, but to me, that's exactly what they are. Mm-hmm. Someone that is willing to put their life on the line for the sake of an unknown person, in your case, your dad. But that, to me, they should get some kind of congressional medal or something, because I mean, they get a beautiful medal, from us, but I think they deserve even more, because they are literally taking someone off of dialysis, or saving someone that needs a liver or tissue, giving someone vision, that they can see. So my kidney was failing 2-3 years ago, and I have a friend in Philly who said, George, you won't have to go on dialysis. I'm going to go through and do whatever I got to do, so that if this time comes, you'll have a living donor. And I can't tell you the stress that took off of me. It was unbelievable. I mean, no one had ever offered, and he just said, no, you won't have to do that again. So donate life. 2 powerful words.
Absolutely. It looks like we've had some questions from the audience. So Aisha asked us, can each of you share something about the donation process you didn't know prior to your transplant or loved one becoming a donor? Robin, would you like to kick us off with that question?
Sure. I knew absolutely nothing, to be honest with you. I registered as a donor when I turned 16 and got my license, but I just did it because it sounded like the thing to do. Because I got so sick and they decided I needed a transplant, it started the process. And it wasn't until after the transplant that I even heard of Living Legacy. So I think that's something that really needs to be addressed more often in the hospital and stuff, because I knew nothing about the Living Legacy and what part it played in my liver until after the transplant. And I learned, what it does and what its purpose is. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Megan, what about you?
I will admit that in high school, I definitely believe if they see the heart on your license, they're not going to try their best to save you. And then reality kicked in. I'm like, there's no way the medical professional isn't going to try to save you at all costs. So that was definitely a myth that got spread around among my friend group. And I'm happy that it's been dispelled, and we are very, very much advocating to tell people, no, that is not true. They will not take your organs because you have a heart on your license.
Oh, yeah. It's funny to once you've experienced transplant, to think back and how did I ever think that? Once you know what all goes into it, you're like, well, how could I have ever thought that? But people do. I know I did before I knew as well. George, what about you? What's something you didn't know?
Something that I did not know about transplantation before my transplant?
Yes.
In 1975, I'll tell you, when I started dialysis, I had been on it for several months before I found out that was the rest of my life. And that's when I think that was the first time I heard the word transplant. Unless you get a transplant. And I didn't know what a transplant was. I was 18. I was 3 months out of high school, just graduated. So this concept of transplantation was very, very new in 75 and in 1972 rather, when I started dialysis. So I can't think of anything that I knew about transplantation in 1972. It wasn't taught in the schools. There were no OPOs in 1972. So I think 1 or 2 over in Wisconsin somewhere or something in 74, 75. But I think the first I heard about it was when one of my doctors came in and happened to mention that you've got to get settled on this. Now, this is the rest of your life. And I totally freaked because the nurses all turned around and, no one told you? No, I thought this was some kind of treatment that would fix whatever was wrong. And I'd be going home and that would be it. but he was the first one that mentioned the word transplant to me. And I don't think I did any research or anything to find out, well, what does that mean? Transplant from what? Are they going to move me to another city or something? Just didn't know. But I know now, but didn't know then.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure in that time, you didn't know anybody who had had a transplant or heard about it.
No.
I was in a pretty unique situation before my transplant that my younger brother actually received a living donor liver transplant 3 years before me. So I kind of was at the advantage that I got to see him go first and go through everything and had somewhat of an idea what to expect. I don't think you ever can quite expect what it's going to be like until you go through it. But I had a somewhat of an idea of what was happening, and also for a few years knew that transplant was likely in my future. And so I felt like I had some time to prepare. But before my brother had his living donor liver transplant, I did not know that that was possible. I had heard about kidneys before, but I had certainly never heard about, living donor liver transplants before. So that was new to me when really my family kind of started the transplant journey.
George, you basically got to see the advancement of transplantation. You got to live it, and I think that's just phenomenal. You got to see all the technology created from it, and that's just wonderful.
It's been a trip, I'll tell you. I remember when cyclosporin came out, and because in the beginning, all we had transplant-wise was azathioprine. Your match had to be right on because there weren't a whole lot of medications that they could throw at a kidney that was rejecting, say. And I'd been asked to go on a children's show, I believe, with Dr. Clive Callender, who was a transplant surgeon at Howard University back in the 70s and 80s, and preeminent transplant surgeon. And I was supposed to announce this new drug, cyclosporin, but instead I called it cyclosporin, and everybody in the audience, that they had no clue, but the people behind the cameras, they're looking around saying, what did he say? So I've lived through all of the new medications, the quick turnarounds. There were very few living donations 48, 50 years ago, very, very few. Very few hospitals did it. But I know GW, then there were a couple of kidney transplants before me at GW, but they were people that had been on dialysis a while with us, and then they were transplanted. Sad to say, I've lost contact with every single one of them. I've moved out of DC and I didn't help any, but it's been amazing to see the advancements, to see the OPOs come in and take charge. There was no list, there was no UNOS. So all of the different mechanisms that have been put in place have helped the cause of organ and tissue donation.
I'm sure that's been quite an incredible, journey just to watch and experience. Somebody in the audience, Jane, asked, have you seen a decrease in the amount of anti-rejection meds needed through these 45 years?
In the beginning, there was just azathioprine and methylprednisone. Now you've got 6 or 7 different medications that you can be on. So I still take, up until last November, 1 month before my 45th anniversary, my doctor took me off of azathioprine, and I was shaking in the wind because you don't change stuff that's working, for me. But he needed to put me on a gout medication, and the gout medication could not be taken with the azathioprine. So he put me on CellCept. Now, 45 years ago, there was no CellCept. 40, 30 years ago, there was no CellCept. I don't remember when that drug came out, but it's relatively new. And so I was able to go on that. My kidney is still functioning as it was a year ago, or 2, 3, 6, 8 months ago, whatever. And so to see the different medications, it's phenomenal. Again, heart, liver, lungs weren't done then. They weren't done in 72, 73, 74, 75. Now, there may be 1 or 2 floating around in the country, but like we have several heart transplants in our club that are 40 years out. Several of them were done when they were babies. We have a young lady on Team Maryland that got hers as she was a child. They were going back and forth trying to figure out who got theirs first. But they were both in diapers when they were able to get their heart. And it's sad because that tells you that someone lost their baby. Someone lost their baby. But again, that word donate and that word life, they knew that if they donated, someone else would not have to go through the pain that they were going through in losing their child. But it's been a wonder to see the changes that have come about over the last 40, 45, 50 years.
I'm sure. Barbara asked, have any of the panelists met their donor or recipient? I, as a living donor transplant recipient, have obviously met my uncle and know him very well, and will always be grateful to him. I think, we'll always have a unique bond for the rest of my life because of that. Megan, have you met any of, or the recipient of your dad's donation?
No, actually, I haven't. And weirdly, a part of me doesn't want to know. I just like to think that there are 4 people out there that just can see better again. And I'm just happy knowing that my dad was able to be the one to help them with that.
It's amazing. What about you, George?
No, unfortunately, the records and the way that things are now were not the way that things were back then. All I know about my donor is what my surgeon told me a long time ago, and that was she was a lady that was killed in a car accident or did not recover from her injuries in a car accident, and that her kidney was donated, her kidneys, because someone else got the other kidney, I believe. And she was from Tennessee, and the kidney was shipped up to DC. That's all I would, I think Latrice asked me about that question once, and I broke down because what would I do if I was suddenly in front of the people, the husband or the grandchildren or the children of this young lady? She was 30 years old. I was 21. And, but no, I've never been able to find, and I looked, I remember going down to George Washington University one time, and the lady actually asked me, "Are you sure you got your transplant here?" I said, "Yeah, pretty sure that that I got it here." As a matter of fact, there used to be in dialysis right upstairs there over this room, but they didn't keep the records, I guess. So I may never be able to find out, but I would embrace them. I would try if they wanted, to know of me and to know the things that I've been able to do in my life because of the generosity of their mother or their spouse. I would tell them everything.
That's amazing. But you know that you're grateful, and for whoever it is, it doesn't matter, right? Just the decision is what is most important. Robin, what about you? Have you had a chance to meet?
No, I've written a letter, but have gotten no response. The only thing I know about my donor is it was a 30-some-year-old person from West Virginia. That's all we know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a difficult time for them too. And Megan has kind of attested to it that, you go through a period of sadness and then kind of leads to that period of hope. So I can see, yeah.
We had a young lady on Team Maryland that met her donor's dad on TV. It was some talk show on TV, and then at the game, I met them online and did not realize that they were the donor family to our teammate. They were in another state. They were in California, I believe, and of course we were in Maryland. And when we traveled to the transplant games that year, they were in Pittsburgh, and we had been talking so much that we knew each other on site. And I said, "Oh, that's right. You've never met your son's recipient. Would you like to? I'm going there now. Would you like to meet her?" And so they, oh my God, yes. Her husband had met, but not the mom. And it was amazing. I mean, you're talking about no dry eyes. We're standing out there at the point where that beautiful fountain is in Pittsburgh, and there's not a dry eye. And it wasn't because of the spray coming from the fountain, but we were realizing the joy that this mother had in knowing that her son's heart and lungs were in this young lady, and they were keeping her alive. And she's still doing well. And I still talk to their family. I talk to their family like they would be my donor family. They're wonderful people.
That's amazing. I know, just the donation community, it doesn't matter, if you're a recipient or a donor or a donor family, it's such a tight-knit community, which I love. It's been such a great support, especially during the pandemic when you can't get together with people, and just being able to connect with other people who, understand what you're going through. And it's been great. I think that's all the questions that we have. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I'm so glad that we get to come together during Donate Life Month and talk about why we support donation. I hope that everyone watching tonight feels empowered and encouraged to be part of the LLF's In One Word campaign. It's super easy to participate. You just write your word down on a piece of paper, take a photo, and then share on social media using hashtag In One Word. The LLF is randomly choosing one person each week who shares their word as part of the campaign to win a great Donate Life prize pack, including a hat and a pair of blue and green socks. So check out www.inoneword.org for more details. And last but not least, I would like to remind everyone that tomorrow is Blue and Green Day. So please be sure to wear blue and green to show your support for our cause. Thank you to our panelists and to everyone who joined us tonight. We appreciate you spending your Thursday evening with us, and be sure to tune in next month for our May episode, Donate Life Ambassadors, the LLF's Heart and Soul. Have a great night.
Thank
Thank you. Good
Take
night.
care, everybody.